Oh, how you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we studying Daf Lamed Gimel, Daf 33 of Masechta Gittin. Friends. I'm a little bit nervous because today it's already 8:15 p.m. and I think we got some work to do ahead of us, friends. I think it might be a long one. Some stuff you have to talk through, Some stuff you have to talk through, but let's see. We're gonna stop a little bit early because the end of it would have taken too long. There are some cats outside that are making some serious noise. Hopefully they'll go away. All right. We are that. Oh man, I'm ready. Babble. You haven't even started yet. It's 8:15 at night. We got work to do. But all right, it's gonna be good. Okay. It's a gewaldige daf though, so alright, here we go. Lamed Beis, about 5 lines from the bottom with the 2 dots. Barishono haya oseh. Boom. Right, the Mishnah had said that initially a fellow would be able to be mevatel a get remotely, right? He writes a get and he sends it with the messenger to deliver to his wife, and he decides, you know what? Meh. To heck with that. So he goes to a Bezdin and he's mevatel the get, and the get is batel, doesn't work. When the wife receives it, it's irrelevant. He was mevatel it remotely. However, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, no, Reb Gamliel Azaken came along and he said nisht because of tikkun olam. We're going to learn about tikkun olam soon on Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph. But now we're talking a little bit about the Bezdin. So, so when he's mevatel this get remotely, meaning prior to the gezerah of Reb Gamliel Azaken, to be mevatel the get remotely, so how many people do you have to be mevatel in front of? Rav Nachman Omer b'fnei Beis, Rav Sheshes Omer b'fnei Gimel. Rav Nachman says you have to be mevatel it in front of 2, and Rav Shesha says you have to be mevatel it in front of 3. Rav Shesha Samar bifnei gimel bezdin katoni. So Rav Shesha says, well, the reason why I say 3 is pretty straightforward. The Mishnah says, what does the Mishnah say? Barishona ya'osa bezdin mimakom acher mevatlo. The Mishnah specifically says that he's what's the word I'm thinking of? That he's convening. I think that's what I was thinking of. That he convenes a Bezdin, and Bezdin is 3, as we all know. So Rav Nachman says that no, he convenes 2 people. Is mevatel to get in front of 2 people. Levei treinami Bezdin karilu, because 2 can also be referred to as a Bezdin. Rav Nachman ben Aminallah, and Rav Nachman says, what's my proof that 2 can be referred to as a Bezdin? The Tanan, as we learn in the Mishnah, Mosrani lefneichem ploni ufloni hadayonim sheb'makom ploni. That when it comes to a pruzbul, that we're going to learn. I think did we mention pruzbul yet? No, maybe not. We're going to talk about pruzbul and Daf Lamed Daled and Beis and after that. So pruzbul. Okay, what we talked about Shemitas Kesafim? Did we talk about Shemitas Kesafim? I don't know. I can't remember what's what anymore. What did we do? What we didn't do? What did I do? I don't know what's what. Who could tell me what a pruzbul is? Pruzbul is that, did we not talk about Shmitas Ksafim? I don't know. Shmitas Ksafim is that when Shemitah comes, every 7 years, it's not just that the land rests, but any loans that are outstanding are erased, or forgiven. So that's Shmitas Ksafim. However, what was happening was that coming up to Shemitah, people would stop lending money as it got closer to Shemitah, because come Shemitah, they're not going to get their money back. So Hillel established a pruzbul that you basically give the loan to Bezdin, and Bezdin's the one collecting it, not you. So Mosrani lefneichem. So in the document, the pruzbul document you write, I am giving over this loan to you, ploni ufloni adayonim. The judges, ploni and ploni. Ploni is 1, ploni is 2. So we see that two judges are called judges, two people are called judges. So we see, so Rav Nachman wants to argue that oichit also when it comes to being mevatel a get remotely, it's in front of two, not in front of three. Okay? Rav Sheshes fires back. Otutano ki ruchla leichoshev v'leizil bararararara. I think we've seen this phrase before. Yeah, we saw it in Masechta Nozir. Okay. Nu is the Tan of our Mishnah like a spice merchant that he's saying this and that and the other thing and this and the other thing and that and the other thing and this and that and the other thing? Does the Mishnah need to say ploni, ufloni, ufloni, and unless it says the right number of plonis, we're gonna say no, you only said two? What does the Tana have to say this and that and the other thing and this and that and the other thing? No, it says ploni ufloni, but it doesn't mean only ploni and floni. It means ploni and ploni and ploni. Three. So when it says ploni ufloni, don't be so geeking outy with the Mishnah that, but it says ploni ufloni. Yeah, it says that, but chill out a shtickle. Ploni ufloni means ploni ufloni ufloni. Okay, it means three, not two. Rav Nachman, Rav Nachman doesn't give up. He says, yeah, how do I know that it's referring to two and not three? The Tanan, as we learn in that same Mishnah by Prusbul, Hadayonim chosmin limata o ha'edim. That the judges sign the document at the bottom, or the witnesses. My love, dayonim dumya de'edim. Why is it mentioning the witnesses and the judges? We're comparing the witnesses and the judges. Ma edim shnaim av dayonim shnaim nami shnaim. Just like witnesses, of course, are two. So the dayonim that we're referring to also by the Prusbul are two, not three. And here also by being mevatel get remotely, we're talking about two, not three. Rav Sheshes, midi irya, okidisa v'okidisa. Rav Sheshes fires back and he says, no, when it says dayanim and edim, it's not to compare the dayanim to the edim to say that they're only two. No, dayanim is three, edim is two. Each one, okidisa v'okidisa. Each one as is, as makes sense for that thing. Witnesses are two, dayanim are three. Lamali lemisna dayanim, lamali lemisna edim. So if that's the case, why mention dayanim and edim? Of course the dayanim can sign the document. So akamash melon deloshna kosuv b'loshen dayanim v'chas me'edim v'loshna kosuv b'loshen edim v'chas me'dayanim. It doesn't make a difference whether the document is written from the point of view of the judges. We the judges, it came before us judges, this loan or whatever, writing it from the point of view of the judges, but v'chas me'edim, and then at the bottom they sign Cham Yankel, aid, the witness, right? Yosef ben Shimon, aid, witness. Even though it starts off talking about judges, it's still okay if they sign as witnesses. V'loshna kosu b'loshen edim. And it also doesn't matter if the document is written from the perspective of witnesses, right? We witnessed this loan or whatever. V'chas medayanim, and then they sign at the bottom, right? So and so judge. Either way is fine. So that's why we mentioned edim and dayanim, to say that even if you wrote it as dayanim but signed as edim, or write it as edim but signed as dayanim, both of them or beseder. Okay, fine. Okay, but says Rav Sheshes that it's we're talking about three judges, not two judges. Fine. Now, mipnei tikkun olam. So we said that Rabbi Gamliel Azokin had said that we're not mevatel gittin remotely because of Rabbi Gamliel Azokin said this because of tikkun olam. Ma mipnei tikkun olam? No, tell me more about this tikkun olam. Rabbi Yochanan mipnei takonas mamzerim, Rish Lakish mipnei takonas agunis. That Rabbi Yochanan says that the concern here is about mamzerim, and Rish Lakish says the concern here is about agunis. Rabbi Yochanan mipnei takonas mamzerim. Rabbi Yochanan says that we're concerned here with remote bottling, with remote bottling. We're concerned about mamzerim. Savela Rav Nachman, because Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rav Nachman. Dama b'fnei shnayim, that Rav Nachman says that when you're being mevatel a get remotely would be done in front of two. Uvetrei leis luhukala, and two people, right, doing something in front of two people doesn't have a voice. People don't find out about it. Right, the Yentis in the bungalow colony on Shabbos afternoon are not going to be talking about it. They're going to be talking about somebody else. Vihi lo shama, and therefore she is not going to hear. She's not going to know that the get that she is receiving was actually bottled. And therefore she receives a get. She has no clue that it was remotely bottled, and she receives a get. She thinks that she's now divorced. She's going to get married. She's going to have children, and those children will be mamzerim. That's a big, big problem. So in order to avert that terrible situation where the husband remotely is mevatel the get and in front of two people, and the wife has no clue, and she thinks she's divorced, and she gets remarried, and the children are mamzerim, to avoid that, Rabbi Gamliel HaZaken said, don't do it. Don't be mevatel the get remotely. V'ika mamzerim, and then there'll be mamzerim. Fine. Whereas Rish Lakish says that we have to be concerned about agunis, that if we just allow a fellow to be mevatel a get remotely, so he'll be mevatel the get remotely and create a humongous headache for his wife who now can't get remarried because the get was bottled. So like Rav Sheshes, that Rish Lakish holds like Rav Sheshes, that Rav Sheshes says that to be mevatel a get, it would have to be mevatel in front of three. To be mevatel it remotely, it would have to be done in front of three. And something done in front of three people find out about it, and she'll know about it. So he'll remotely be mevatel the get. She'll find out. She'll know that it's bottled, and she's now basically stuck. She's married to some lazy jerk who's being mevatel the get from far away, who's never gonna come and give her a get. She's basically gonna be stuck. V'shama v'yadav lo mitzvah, she won't be able to get remarried. V'takonis agunis u'deika, and therefore, in order to prevent this aguna situation where this wife is basically trapped by this nudnik who is mevatel to get from far away, we say, you know what? No being mevatel to get from far away. If you want to be mevatel to get, go and catch up with the shaliach and exert some energy, invest in it, show that you actually care. Be mevatel to get that way. Don't just sit, don't just sit at home drinking Diet Coke and being mevatel gets. All right, fine. Tanu Rabbanim, the rabbis taught, Botlu mivotol, param pam pam param. Now we're going to get into these two machloiksin between Rebbe and his father, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, and that's going to take us basically to the end of the daf. You have to use your brain to shtickle. I don't know, maybe I was getting more excited than I need to. It took me a really long time to review this. I don't know, but it's not, so far so good. But maybe the point is that now we're getting up to the harder part. I don't know, maybe it's not that hard. Okay, fine. But this is going to take us also till, tomorrow we're going to talk about it as well. But okay, here we go. You ready? Tanu Rabbanan, Batlo, Mivotul, Divi Rabbi, Reb Shimon Gamliel, Omer Eno Yochol Levatlo, Lo Levatlo, Lo Osif, Al Tanoshim Kima Koch Bezin Yofe. Bara. So the shaila that we're asking over here is, what if you were mevatel it? Meaning, up until Rabbi Gamliel HaZaken came along, you could be mevatel a get remotely, which means that midoraisa it works, right? If you mevatel a get remotely, so it works. You mevatel the get. The get is bottled, and it does nothing. She remains married. She can't get remarried. Now comes Rabbi Gamliel HaZaken. He says, "Nisht, you can't do it. You can't be mevatel a get remotely. Nisht, you can't be mevatel a get remotely. You can't do it." What if somebody did do it? So now what happens? Midoraisa is bottle, and midoraisa she can't get remarried. But Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Rabbi Gamliel HaZaken said, don't do it. But he did do it. So do we say that if he's mevatel it doesn't work? Rabbi Gamliel HaZaken said, you can't do it, it doesn't work. And therefore it's a good get, she can get remarried. So Tana Rabbanan Batlu Mavutul Divrei Rebbe. So Rebbe says, look. At the end of the day, yes, Rabbi Gamliel Zakin says that you can't be mevatel get remotely, and that must be respected. You can't be mevatel get remotely. If the nudnik did, he was mevatel get remotely. Rabbi says, look, at the end of the day, midoraisa, it's mevutel. What do you want me to tell you? And it's bottle, and she can't get remarried with it. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer Eino Yachol Levatlov Lolosaf Atano. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says nisht. Rabbi Gamliel Zakin said that you cannot be mevatel get remotely. Therefore, you cannot be mevatel get remotely. He says, right? He says, Enu yocholo levatlo. You can't be mevatel it remotely. V'lo hosef atano. Nor can you change up to any conditions that you might have in the get remotely. You can't do any of that stuff remotely. She'im kain, because if you can, ma koyach bezdin yofe. What good is the power of bezdin? Bezdin needs to be a proper authority. And if you have a situation where Rab Gamliel Azakin is saying that you may not be mevatel get remotely, but it's really, ultimately, it's just, he doesn't actually have the authority to implement that, and if somebody is mevatel get remotely, it's mevutel, then what good is Bezdin? Bezdin is basically like, I don't know, it's very weak. Their authority is very weak if they can make, statements that ultimately they can't implement, enforce, that they can't enforce, right? Meaning, otherwise it's just cute, right? Rabbi Gamliel Zakin says, you can't be mevatel get remotely. Well, I just did. Oops. Well, there's not much I can do. No, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says that in order for Bezdin to be effective, what they say must be able to be implemented, to the extent that if somebody's mevatel get remotely, it doesn't work. And it is still a good get. But now, fact the Gemara. But the Gemara says, but there's a big problem with that. Rebbe, who says that it is bottle, has a point. Mida oraisa, you could be mevatel get remotely. Rabbi Gamliel Zakin is saying, don't do it. Okay, but look, at the end of the day, mida oraisa, it's bottle. How could it be that mida oraisa you could be mevatel get remotely, and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is coming to say, no, and Rabbi Gamliel Zakin is coming to say, no, you cannot be mevatel remotely, and therefore it's still a good get, and therefore a woman can get remarried with this get. But I don't understand. If mida oraisa you could be mevatel get remotely, it's not a good get, and she is still married, and she can't get remarried. I don't understand. It's very cute. I mean, it's very nice that you want to say, Im kim hakoach bezdin yofe. It's very nice that you want to, give power to the bezdin and make sure that we take them seriously. But at the end of the day, bezdin can't override a din d'oraisa. To which the Gemara says, you better bet your bottom dollar they can. Because of a gewaldige klal that we've learned before. Kol de mekadesh, adaita de rabbonon mekadesh. As we've learned, that when a fellow stands under the chuppah and says, Hayat Mekudeshes li b'tabazoi kidas Moshe v'Yisrael, that I'm being mekadesh, right? A fellow is mekadesh a fellow, kidas Moshe v'Yisrael. With it, right? According to the halachis of Moses and Israel, that basically, when a fellow is mekadesh a fellow, he's mekadesh her within the framework of the halachas that the rabbis made. So essentially, you're not being mekadesh her like by the letter of the law of mida oraisa. You're being mekadesh her according to the framework that the rabbis put in place. And in this case, the rabbis retroactively undo the Kiddushin. Meaning what's happening over here is, yes, Kiddushin is, of course, mida oraisa, but you're accepting upon yourself, you are being mekadesh this woman, not only midoraisa, but also taking into account any additional halachas that the rabbis added. And what the rabbis added, a halacha that the rabbis added, is that if you want to dissolve this marriage, of course you dissolve this marriage with a get, but that get cannot be mivutal remotely. And if you will be mevatel it remotely, well then we are retroactively going to uproot your marriage so that you were never actually married. Right? Meaning, what's happening over here? What's happening over here is that this fellow is writing a get to give to his wife so that she can get divorced. Now this nudnik goes against the chachamim who say you cannot be mevatel it remotely, and he says, well, I'm going to be mevatel it remotely, and therefore the get is batel, and we're still married. You know what the chachamim say? No, you're not, because if you do that, we are going to retroactively uproot your marriage so you were never actually married in the first place. And therefore she is not married to you, and she was never married to you, because when you said, you accepted upon yourself that this kiddushin, that you are only being mekadesh her according to our rules, according to our halachas. And if you're not going to follow our rules, which are that you can't be mevatel a get remotely, well then the kiddushin that you gave her wasn't you committed at the time that you gave the kiddushin to follow our rules. And if you're not going to follow our rules, well then you never committed, right? Then you never then the kiddushin that you did was never good. How do I explain this? Oh gosh. I feel like my brain isn't in the right way to explain delicate things right now, but you committed at the time that you gave the kiddushin that the kiddushin was only going to count kiddush Moshe v'Yisrael according to our rules. So that's what you committed to. You committed to playing by our rules, and if you're not going to play by our rules, then there was never any kiddushin to begin with. You committed to play by our rules. If you're not going to play by the rules, then there's no kiddushin. If there's no kiddushin, you were never married. So Memela, you're not married now, right? So you're thinking that you're going to be mevatel the get remotely, so that it won't be a good get and you'll remain married. Actually, by doing that, you're showing that you're not following our rules. And if you're not following our rules, well, you committed at the time that you gave the kiddushin to follow our rules, which means that the kiddushin that you gave was never good kiddushin to begin with. So it means you were never married in the first place, and therefore, you're not married now. Okay? I guess this is why I was saying that this is a very involved daf, right? Up until now, it moved pretty quick, but these are like subtle things, right? Called Mekadesh Data D'Rabbanan Mekadesh, Machlokas Rebbe and Reb Shimon Gamliel. About what if he is mevatel remotely. I'm working up a sweat over here. I knew this was going to be, I knew this was going to take time. I knew it was going to take time. It's 8:35 at night. So Ravina says to Rav Ashi, so I understand if he was mekadesh her with money, because if he gave her kesef kiddushin, the chacham can just say, okay, the kesef kiddushin that he gave her was just a gift. They were never actually married. Kadesh bebiyah ma'ikah l'meimer, but what if he was mekadesh her bebiyah, where he's not giving her money? So how do you undo that? Well, the rabbis can make it as if the biyah that he had, the shem kiddushin, was actually just the shem znus. There was never any kiddushin. They were never actually married. Fine. Wow. Oh my gosh, we're still on the first Amud. I knew this was going to be a big one. I knew it was going to be a big one. It was going to be slow. And friends, we have another sugya coming up now, which is also, we're going to have to work through it. What do you want me to tell you? Tonu Rabbanon. The rabbis taught, Omer la asore kisvu get leishti. Wow. Friends, we're going to have to work through this. There's no shortcuts, friends. There's no shortcuts. You're going to have to work through it. Tanu Rabbanan, Omer la'asor, a fellow says to 10 people, Kisvu get leishti, write a get for my wife. Now the halacha is that if a fellow says to 10 people, write a get for my wife, so So one of the 10 people write it, 2 people sign it, but you don't need all 10 of them, right? This is as opposed to, as we're going to learn about soon, and as we've seen in the past, if he says kulchem, if he says all of you, well then they all have to sign it. But if he just says to 10 people, write a get for my wife, so then one of them writes it, 2 of them sign it. So again, Satan Rabban and Omer la sorry kiss get lishti. If a fellow says to 10 people, write a get for my wife. Now in this case, not all of them sign it, 2 of them sign it. Yochel levatel zeh shelo b'fnei zeh. So you can be mevatel, right? You can just say to 2 of them, don't write, I don't want you to write the get. Right? Yochel levatel zeh, where am I? Yochel levatel zeh shelo b'fnei zeh divrei Rebbe. So Rebbe's opinion is that he could then go to 2 of them and say, you know what, I don't want you writing the get. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer enu yochel levatel ela zeh b'fnei zeh. Whereas Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says, no, you have to be mevatel them all together. You can't just be mevatel 2 of the 10. What's the machlokas between Rabbi and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel? Be'edus shebotlu mikzoso botlu kulo kamiflige. The machlokas is that if you have testimony, right, you're telling 10 people to be to write a get for his wife, to be edim on the get. So if you mevatel 2 of them, shebotlu mikzoso, if you mevatel the edus of the 10 people partially, are you mevatel all of the testimony? If you mevatel part of it, are you mevatel all of it? So Rebbe savar edus shebotlu mikzoso lo botlu kula. So Rebbe's opinion is nisht. Rebbe's opinion is that if he says to 10 people, write a get for my wife, and then he says to 2 of them, I don't want you to do it. Okay, so those people don't write the get, but the other 8 would be able to write the get. V'az lehanoch kasve v'yave, and if of the remaining 8 of them, 2 of them write the get and give it to her, let them do that. So there's no concern, right? So remember, going back to our Mishnah, Rabbi Gamliel Azokin had said that you can't be mevatel to get remotely, right? Because we're concerned if you're mevatel to get remotely, she won't know about it, and then she'll get remarried, and there'll be mamzerim. That was the problem. But it says Rebbe, in this case, where there's 10, he says to 10 people, ready to get for my wife. Then he says to 2 of them, don't write it. But there's still another 8 who could write it. And if 2 of them write it and give it, so beseder, it's a good get. So what are you concerned about? Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel savar edus shebatlu mikzoso batla kula. But Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says that if you mevatel part of the edus, then all of it goes away. So if he says to 10 people, ready to get for my wife, and then he says to 2 of them, the other 8 don't know that he said this, but he says to 2 of them, don't write the get, well then the entire edus is batel. V'hanach lo yade, but the other 8 don't know that because he only said it to 2 of them. Ve'azle v'chasve, and then 2 of them go, 2 of the other 8 go, and they write the get, v'yave, and they give it to her. Unbeknownst to any of them or her, the get is not good because it was written by, right, because they were all as a group batel when he was mevatel 2 of them. And they're gonna, and then she's gonna think that she's divorced, even though she isn't, and she's gonna get remarried, and children are gonna be mamzerim, and that's gonna be a problem. So therefore, Reb Shimon Gamliel says that, right, that no, you can't be mevatel 2 of them. That was a cat. That was also a cat. Without the rest of them, and for the same reason that you can't be mevatel a get remotely because she won't know about it and she'll get remarried and it's going to be a problem. So here also, you can't be mevatel 2 out of them without being mevatel all of them because it says, that was also a cat. It says, I might have to go out there and get rid of them. Oh my gosh, what are they doing? I thought they had babies like a few months ago. These cats are going crazy. Come on, don't you know I'm recording Babylon Talmud? This is insane. Come on. I might have to go out there in a second. Just really annoying. Alright. Anyways. So yeah, so just like Rabbi Gamliel Azakim was concerned in the Mishnah, if you have people being mevatel get remotely, and then she won't know and she'll get remarried. Here also, if he's mevatel 2 out of the 10, well, Eidush Batla Muktsasa Batla Kula, and then all of them are batal. None of them are allowed to write it, but they're not going to know because he only told 2 of the 10 of them. So now among the rest of the 8, 2 of them are going to write it and give it to her. She's going to think she can get remarried. It's going to make a whole mess. So for the same reason that we say that you can't be mevatel to get remotely, you also can't be mevatel 2 out of the 10 because all of them are going to be batal and it's going to create a mess. Fine. Viba Isema, alternatively, the Chuli Amo Edus Shabat Lemuktsasa Lo Batla Kula. Wait, what? Viba Isema, the Chuli Amo Edus Shabat Lemuktsasa Lo Batla Kula. Okay. So alternatively, no, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel agrees with Rebbe that Edus Shabat Lemuktsasa Lo Batla Kula. And theoretically, 2 other people could write the get and give it to her, and that would be fine. However, the reason why Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, right, that you have to be mevatel them all together is simply Reb Shimon ben Gamliel kasaver milsa de misavda ba'ape asare tzarich be'asare lemishalfa. Simply that if he had told 10 people write a get, well then he has to tell all 10 of them not to write a get. If you tell 10 people to write a get, you can't just tell 2 of them not to write the get. You have to tell all 10 of them not to write a get. That's all it is. That's all he's saying. It's right that what does he say? You have to be mevatel all of them together, because since he told all 10 of them, he has to also rescind from all 10 of them. He can't just do 2 of them. Fine. Now, I think this is basically going to take us to the end of the where we're going to stop today. Okay, I guess we don't have that much left to do. I mean, we do, but I'm going to stop early. But still, we're going to have to work through it. We're going to have to work through it, friends. We're going to have to work through it, friends. Ibaylu, they asked the kasha. Kulchem mahu. Oh. So what if he said to them, Kulchem? If he says to them, all of you write a get to my wife. So in that case, all 10 of them must sign. So it's not like a situation like the previous case where only 2 of them have to, write it and sign it. Well, 1 of them writes it, 2 of them sign it. Here, all 10 of them have to sign. So, what would Reb Shimon ben Gamliel say in that case? Can you just tell 2 of them not to write it, or do you have to tell all 10? Is it like the first way that we explained Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, which is that he holds that that if he's mevatel 2 of the 10, well then none of the 10 are okay. Well, in this case, where he said kulchem, that would be okay, because when you say kulchem, all of them have to sign the get. And therefore, if he's mevatel 2 of them, well, since he's mevatel 2 of them, none of them are good. They're all going to have to sign the get. 2 of them are going to say, no, we're not able to sign the get. And everything's going to fall apart from there, and they're not going to write the get, and she's not going to receive the get, and then there's no issues. Vahani came to Amar Lahu Kulchem, and now since he said to all of them Kulchem, Lo Matzu Kasve V'Yave, they can't write the get and give it anymore, because since he was mevatel 2 of them, so all of them are the whole group is disqualified, and they can't write the get and give it, and there's nothing to be concerned about. So Reb Shimon ben Gamliel would say that you would, in this case, be able to be mevatel just 2 of them. Or Dilma, or perhaps, time Reb Shimon ben Gamliel mishum dekasaver komilsa dem sabda ba'ape be asar tzricha be asar lemishalfa. Or do we say like the other way to explain Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, which is that, well, if you if you appoint 10 people, right? If you appoint all 10 of them together, so you have to be mevatel all 10 of them together. You can't be mevatel just 2 of them. Nami, and therefore, even in the situation of kulchem, where all of them have to sign it, still, right? And there's nothing to be concerned about practically, but still, if he says to all 10 of them to sign it, so then he has to tell all 10 of them not to sign it, not just 2 of them. Tashma. So now the Gemara tries to bring a proof. Amar l'shnayim tnu get leishti. Well, if a fellow says to 2 people, give a get to my wife, and we're assuming what this means is write and give, right? Be the Eidei Ksiva. So write and give a get to my wife. Yochel levatel zeh shelo b'fnei zeh. Divrei Rebbe says that you could be mevatel one of them, not in the presence of the other one. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel Omer Eino Yochol Levatel El Zeh B'fnei Zeh. Whereas Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, no, nisht, you have to be mevatel both of them together. V'ashnayim dechikulchem damu flige da 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 da. But 2 people is basically the same thing as kulchem with 10 people, right? When you say kulchem to 10 people, all 10 of them have to sign. When you say, right, when you have only 2 witnesses on the get, well then both of them have to sign. And even, so therefore, just like when it came to kulchem, if he says to 2 of them not to sign, well then there isn't practically a concern, because when they all go to sign, 2 of them are going to say, hey, we can't sign, and therefore it's all going to fall apart. So here also, right, when he says to 2 people to write the get, and then he tells one of them, don't do it. So practically speaking, there's nothing to be concerned about, because when he says to one of them not to do it, well then the whole thing falls apart, because you need both of them. And still yet, we see that Reb Shimon ben Gamliel still argues and says, no, you have to tell both of them together. So apparently, it sounds like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel's opinion is that no, that if you tell both of them together, well then you have to untell both of them together. And if you tell all 10 of them together, then you have to untell all 10 of them together. Amr Rav Ashi, but says Rav Ashi, one second. Be'ede ksiva hachinami. Rav Ashi says, look, if you're talking about the Ede Ksiva, the witnesses of the Ksiva, of the writing, so then sure, you have a good point. That he says to both of them to write it, he would have to tell both of them to not write it, and the same thing would be for 10. But, however, Rav Ashi explains that this brisa that talks about Omer l'shnayim to get the ishti, it's not talking about to write the get, it's talking about, and it's not talking about witnesses, it's talking about messengers to deliver the get. It's talking about the shluchei holacha. And in that case, according to Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, there actually really is a concern, because if he just tells to one of them not to do it, and the other one doesn't know, he might go and deliver it, and then that would be a problem, because if we say Eidah shebat l'miktsasa but l'kula, well then when he tells one of them not to do it, the other one might go and deliver it, and that would be a problem. But we don't necessarily know what would happen in the case of kulchem, where all of them have to be there for the to sign it. And this taka makes sense that when Reb Shimon ben Gamliel is saying by the 2 witnesses that you have to be mevatel in front of both of them, it's talking about the shluchei holacha. The Katani Sefer that the Brisa continues and it says, Omer loze b'fnei atzmo v'loze b'fnei atzmo. That however, if he first said to one of the messengers, can you bring this get to my wife? And then he said to the second messenger, can you bring this get to my wife? Yachol levatel zeh shelo b'fnei zeh. Then he would be able to be mevatel one without the other, because since he asked the shluchim separately, well then it wouldn't be shlichus shebatla miktsasa batla kula. And therefore, he would be able to be mevatel one without the other, because in that case, if he's mevatel one, the second one can still deliver it. This makes sense if we're talking about the messengers to deliver the get. But if we're talking about the people who are, right, the witnesses to write the get, you can't have two witnesses to write the get who you're appointing separately. There's some sunflower people outside. What are they yelling about? Yeah, those sound to me like sunflower people. Even with my earplugs in my ear, I could tell a sunflower situation. Maybe my neighbor will go out and yell at them. What the heck are they yelling about? But friends, we're almost done. Let me Let me just wrap up. Ha'amar Mar, we said, Ein edusa mitzarefes ad shiru shneim ke'echad, that you can't be witnesses unless you see them both together, i.e., and the same thing would apply here, that if you want them to be edei ksiva, you would have to appoint them together. You can't appoint them separately. So therefore it must be that we're talking about the shluchei halacha, Dilma Rabbi Yeshua ben Korach Svirle, to which we say, no, maybe the halacha is like Rabbi Yeshua, maybe the brisa is like Rabbi Yeshua ben Korach, who says that you can have them see it separately, and here also you'd be able to appoint them separately. So maybe it is talking about the edei ksiva, and it's not necessarily talking about the edei halacha. I'm very curious what they're fighting about outside. Okay, fine. So maybe it is taka the edei ksiva, and in which case then you might taka have a point that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is saying even by the edei ksiva you would have to do them both together, which then can have an implication for when he says to 10 people, kulchem. All right. Well, that was daf. What daf was that? Daf Lamed Gimel of Masechta Gittin. Very interesting daf. We talked about being mevatel get remotely, right? Rabbi Nachman says that theoretically, prior to the Gzeir of Rabbi Gamliel Azakin, would be done in front of 2. Rav Shesha says it's done in front of 3. We talked about the tikkun olam aspect. Is it, right, when we say not to do it, one opinion is that we're concerned, right, Rabbi Yochanan is that we're concerned about mamzerim, Rish Lakish is that we're concerned about agunis. Then we got into these 2 machlokim between Rebbe and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, which we're going to continue on tomorrow. The first one was about what if you were mevatel to get remotely. Rebbe says it's bottle. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says it's not bottle because imkein makoyach bezdin yofe. And we talked about called the Mekadesh, Adaita to Abon and Mekadesh. Very, very interesting sugya. And then we talked about another machlokas between Rebbe and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel about if he told 10 people to be mevatel to get, if he told 10 people to write a get, can he tell only 2 of them not to do it? Rebbe says yes. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says no, it would have to be in front of all of them. And we have different ways to explain the machlokas between Rebbe and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, whether it's about Eidu Shabbat L'Muktzasa Bat L'Kula, whether it's about if he tells 10 people to write it, then he would have to tell all 10 of them not to write it. Then we tried to bring a proof from when he says Kulchem. It wasn't necessarily clear what the outcome of that was. Friends, that was Daf Lamed Gimel of Masechta Gittin. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.